Hello, welcome to the Always Be Comedy podcast. Our guest today is the icon, inarguably one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time. It's Stewart Lee, Tim.
Yeah, the comedian who made me the comedy obsessive that I am to this day, a hugely important figure in my lifetime, but also he'll be so important for so many people. He is one of the all-time greats, easily.
So the first time Stu was on the pod, I was so nervous that I started... I think I asked Tim a question. Do you remember? My brain I just got, oh my God. If that was a football match, the manager would have hooked me off. For just like my own good. Yeah. I couldn't cope. We are a couple of unashamed fanboys. But Tim, a couple of years of many more gigs and, gosh darn it, friendship and all of that. I don't know about you, I was more at ease this time.
Yeah, I was at ease, actually. Well, I had to go for a wee right before we started.
I had to go for a wee halfway, so we weren't that at ease, but compared to last time.
But yeah, absolutely. We've now, he does the gig, I'd say, when he's not on tour, I think where he plays the most, if I may say that, I think that's probably the case.
Please, dear God, let that remain the case forever. Always great to see him. As you'll tell from this chat, if you've not done the previous episode, you'll tell from this chat just what we think of the guy. This is one of our absolute heroes, and we've got to know him off stage, and we love him just as much off stage as we do on. This is very schmaltzy, but hey, I'm
absolutely, yeah. We think he's brilliant. We think he's really brilliant.
The absolute king. Now, we are confident because we know a lot of you guys, like us, are, and we say this with love, comedy nerds, right? Yeah. So there's every chance you've already got your ticket for the tour or you've already seen the show and so on. But for those of you who don't yet have a ticket and are thinking about getting a ticket and so on, so Tim, if this comes out on Tuesday the 17th of February... he's at the Marlow Theatre, Canterbury, on Wednesday the 18th, and then Tim, there's a mini pause, and he's back Sunday the 3rd of May. At Tim, how do you pronounce Mac?
I think McCuntliff.
I'm very grateful.
A proper comedy nerd, like haven. Really, it really is.
And then after that, it's Weston-super-Mare from the 6th and the 7th. Exeter, 8th of May. Richmond, 9th of May. They're already sold out. So this is why we're encouraging you to visit stewartslee.co.uk. What is that? / live - dates.
Check the show notes. Check the show notes.
Yeah, check the show notes.
There'll be a link you can click through.
I'm sorry, this isn't about Always Be Comedy. Podcasts in general. I said to a friend of mine, I listened to their podcast, and I said, I didn't know where this link was. And they said, check the show notes. And I was like, in the thousands of podcasts I've listened to down the years, I don't think I've ever once checked a show note. So this is good to flag this stuff. If you're like me,
yeah.
Sorry, Tim.
Oh no, I was going to say it'll be easier. It'll be easier. It's all there for you to just click through straight away.
So if you're like me and you've never checked a show note in your life, Tim, God bless him, puts them in the show notes. If you insist that you won't check a show note, it's stewartlee.co.uk. Now, Tim, Mac is important because, as we talk about on this pod, amongst many other things, Stu is going to pilot his own podcast.
Yes, hugely, hugely exciting. He is self-producing a podcast with the singer of the Nightingales, a band he's been very closely linked to in the last few years because he did a brilliant documentary about it, King Rocker. It's been recorded at 11 a.m. on the Saturday, the 2nd of May. There appear to be a few tickets left. Actually, no, I'm reading the show notes for a different thing. But anyway, he is recording that weekend in McCuntliff. It sounds really, really interesting. It's a pilot. I hope it's an aired pilot.
Now, Stu, I mean, he did say repeatedly, Tim, that he'll be back at Always Be Comedy once this tour is out of the way. Now, the tour runs until December, so you've got lots of opportunities to see Stu. So while Stu might not be playing Always Be Comedy for a few months yet, and Tim and I will be counting down the days, please know that, there are hundreds of other shows, and there certainly will be hundreds of other shows, to see with us across the coming days, weeks, and months. Including, Tim, I mean, I don't know if it made the edit, but we did chat about us moving to the Bedford at Balham. I shouldn't say moving to, adding the Bedford at Balham, and Stu was really chuffed about this.
Yeah, he was. He was. Well, did he say first ever paid gig of his? Sorry, sorry to spoil what's coming up in the episode, but I think that will make it into the final edit behind the curtain fans.
So there are many more. So Monday the 23rd of February, a show that we've recently moved, and as a result, there are a few tickets left. Ivo Graham this coming Monday, 6:30 p.m. is doing a work in progress. Tim, we've also added some podcasts with Catherine Bohart and Olga Koch. This is the Tonsil Hockey podcast. It is a fan podcast inspired by the global TV mega smash Heated Rivalry, the steamy ice hockey drama that, Tim, everyone is talking about it. It's true, isn't it? In fact, we were talking about it with Erica Ayler a good few weeks ago.
Yeah, she was early on it, and it has just become it's just one of the biggest shows right now, maybe off the year. Everyone talks about it to like cool comedy audiences, to like my mum. Like everyone's on board with Heated Rivalry. So yeah, it's Olga and Catherine Bohart, the brilliant comedians, discussing it with guests, and it's a good slate of guests, if I may say so. We've got Tia Coffey, one for best drag queens around, Desiree Birch, Phil Wang, Fern Brady, and a couple more to be confirmed.
Yeah, so at the time of recording, just the only one to be confirmed is the guest for show number 5. So the shows are there's 2 on Sunday the 22nd of February. There are 2 on Saturday the 28th of February, and there are the final 2 Sunday the 1st of March. We can say that Sunday the 1st of March, they're already almost sold out. They've only been on, the 6 shows have only been on sale a couple of days. But if you visit alwaysbecomedy.com/tickets, tickets are all there. We've also added shows with the likes of John Kearns on the 2nd of March, a couple of Phil Wang works in progress on the 17th and 18th of March, recently added, and then in the coming weeks and months. Here's one, Tim, at Chelsea, Felicity Ward, Maisie Adam, Sunil Patel. 3 big ABC hitters. But as we say, please visit alwaysbecomedy.com/tickets for these and many more. We've also added a couple of work in progress shows with Nish Kumar, Friday the 20th of March. That is down to wafer thin levels of tickets. And then also Sunday the 22nd of March. Again, not many left with Nish Kumar. And then also, sorry, I keep finding new shows. Maisie Adam, work in progress. Monday the 23rd and Monday the 30th of March. And then we've also added a show run through with Ian Sterling on Tuesday the 24th of March at the Tommyfield. For these and many more, please visit alwaysbecomedy.com/tickets. And here he is, the great man, Stewart Lee. Well, look, thank you very much. So, right, we're off.
Yeah.
Stu, now the last time we saw you was properly was Always Be Comedy, working up the Man Wolf tour. How is the tour going at the moment?
Well, it's going really well. It's going really well. Like, people keep coming and putting more shows on. Being in the wolf costume for the second hour has been really good for me. It's the only exercise, apart from cycling and long distance walks, that I've ever managed to enjoy doing in my life. I basically do an hour sort of cardio workout every night in a really hot costume. I've lost about 1.5, 2 stone doing it, and I feel really great afterwards. And when I'm not doing it, I have to go cycling or whatever, because I've got into the habit of, doing exercise. So that's all really good. The audiences they're quite a good spread of different kinds of people, which is really good. And then the other thing is, as you know, you saw me working it out. The show's sort of about how authoritarian bullies are taking over in politics and comedy, and we're all doomed. And kind of 14 months ago, I could see people were going, "Well, it's not that bad, you know." But now I have to keep making the things that the werewolf says worse to keep up with the speed at which discourse is degenerating, you know. And for example, a year ago, the opening joke was like so hard writing comedy at the moment. Uh, Everything's so bad. Last, you know, Elon Musk did two Nazi salutes at Trump's inauguration. I think to do one Nazi salute may be considered a misfortune. To do two is carelessness, and then Oscar Wilde, blah blah blah. But now that seems like nostalgic for a simpler time when people are being shot in the face in the street, you know, kind of, and when there people are openly avowing far right ideas, the sort of subtle dog whistle of him doing a bit of a Nazi salute. So people are kind of ready for it to it's moving forwards as the news is getting worse. And there is also, at the risk of sounding like I think I'm Jesus or something, there's a kind of cathartic release in them laughing at something that is really on the nose about all this terrible stuff that is happening now. And someone said to me last night, the cartoonist from the New World, that it felt people felt sort of depressed by the reality of it, but also elated at having, you know, been able to laugh about it. You know, it's really lucky. It's the world has moved towards the show as I've written it.
You know, because a lot of comedians, when they're trying to prepare a tour, I know one rather famous comedian who will deliberately write material that will feel prescient in a year. So this particular comedian had a routine about sex robots, and
Yeah.
it never quite, the sex robots thing never really materialized. But that was quite openly their intention. They were like, no, trust me, 12, 18 months, this will be. But I mean, you yourself there, I mean, obviously you could never have predicted it. I
No.
mean, the prescience is just, I mean, it's off the
Yeah.
charts, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm not like I'm not a future predictor sort of
No,
person. There is like there's a kind of inevitability about a direction of travel. What I used to like was all those sort of circuit acts who had been doing it so long that they had routines about certain types of news stories that would then come around a sex scandal and you just change the names
yeah.
or a drug scandal at the Olympics. I remember seeing Bob Mills, very, very good like circuit comic,
Mm.
and he had stuff about the Olympics in 1990 or something. I thought, wow, it's amazing. He must have written all that this week. And then the Olympics came around again. 4 years later, and he got it out of the file and it came out again. You know, there are things that sort of there's things that never change that feel topical in cycles. But then what's happening now is kind of unprecedented.
So
Yeah.
how are you? Are you? How is the show changing as it's going on? Are you literally writing on the fly as these things
Well, the
keep?
spine of it, the spine of it, which is that I come out in the first half and do loads of sort of liberal satire
Mhm.
about a good and evil, responsibility for the things that we say, um, and then the second half where the right-wing American werewolf Netflix comedian does that in a horrible way, and the liberal American Netflix werewolf comedian does the same approach in a liberal sort of way. That basically holds together, but the colouring in of the detail of who the joke's about changes, and also there's 4 or 5 points in this where there's an interaction with the audience that can create different kinds of material every night. Although what
Yes.
happens when you've done it 125 times is human beings tend to say the same sorts of things when asked certain kinds of questions. So what began as a thrilling improvisation does end up becoming a sort of decision tree, like a choose your own adventure game, because you know they're going to say certain kinds of things, and then it looks like you've got an amazing response prepared, but actually they've kind of written it for you. They're like a collective hive mind, and they kind of they kind of come up with similar sorts of things that create similar sorts of actions. So yeah, it's really great. I love doing shows hundreds of times because 2 nights ago, after having done it about 120 times, I discovered a thing that took about 5 seconds that changed the whole way the last 10 minutes works in a much better way. And I would never have written it. It happened by accident. It was about the werewolf has a sort of false penis, then I have a second penis underneath, and my t-shirt sort of dropped down and covered most of the penis, so the little tip was hanging out, which looked really funny. And it happened at a point where I was trying to say a really serious thing, genuine thing that I think.
Yeah.
And of course, the worst thing about the long form comedy show, which I love as a thing, is the bit where the comedian goes, but actually, what this show's about really is, well, I think blah, blah. And you kind of, you want to be sick, don't you? But you have to do it. And then, but if you do that with a tiny penis hanging out through a t-shirt, you're still saying the thing. You're in conflict with a stupid thing trying to undermine you, which is the essence of all clowning, isn't it? It's about, Goliath, who just died,
Yeah.
went on one of his courses, thank God. But he had a thing, that it's about. I saw one of his disciples, the Dutch clown Josh Hoek, and he did a lecture about how all comedy and clowning is about man trying to retain his dignity in the face of the physical world or society or his partners or whatever undermining him. And that, so to try to say the serious thing about the show whilst having a tiny visible penis is, I can't believe it's taken me 14 months to work that out. I'm shit, actually.
The pressure it puts on the next tour.
Well, it does, yeah. But actually, what I've realised I want is, uh, people have commented on how this is still like me, but it's really different. And the physical clowning part of it, I talked to a guy called Rob Thurtle from an old physical comedy theatre company called Trickster, about he didn't so much direct the physical comedy bit, but he explained to me the philosophy of sort of physical clowning. And he thinks of it very much like we think of a joke. You got a setup and a punchline, and then the next bit. And in each bit, between each bit, you have a reset, and you have to think about what the whole bit's trying to achieve. And so it was really great. And also doing the physical stuff's been good for me physically. So for the next tour, I want to have something that's hard to do and demanding, and I'll be 60 when I'm doing it. Which it all makes it funnier, of course. The older you are, the more tragic it is to see you trying to do physical things. So the next one, which will be 2028, which will be all about national identity, I'm going to try and get a Morris dancing team from each town to do a finale with me, for which I want to have worked out a really complicated and demanding piece of traditional dance, which I'll do with them. So I'm already thinking about that one, and I wish I could do it now, that show, because I've got loads of ideas about flags, national identity, racist football managers, but they're all backed up. And I want to get that show in before the next election. But yeah, I'll do a big physical set piece with dozens of people in it. And I'm
This
going to
is
work it out at Always Be Comedy with 20 Morris dancers in that room above the pub.
Stu. Me and Tim are ordering the white handkerchiefs and bells as you're talking.
Yeah, nothing makes me happier.
Black bowler hat with some flowers tied to it.
Yeah.
That is, mate. On behalf of every Stewart Lee fan listening to this sounds sensational.
Great, good.
But also, I mean, that must be part. That's just part of the reason for your longevity. You're always trying to find the new thing or the thing that keeps you excited. I've said this to you before. You, Harry Hill, Al Murray, you've all got love of the game. This is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I did a podcast recently with Harry Hill, and he said, "Will you do my podcast?" And I went, "Yeah." And I went down, and I just thought it was going to be like this, we were talking. But he's got a whole film set basically, and all these visual gags worked out, and really funny guests, and it was a superb, like joyous thing. And then I was looking at the comments underneath afterwards, which you must never do.
Must
And
never
people
do.
were going, I wouldn't imagine they would get on. And then some people going, Stuart Lee seems like he's trying to sabotage it and ruin it. And actually, we've known each other 35 years. And Harry very generously said in his autobiography that I was one of the people that made him want to do stand up. And you can see his early stuff's very like what I did. And then weirdly, I think that also there are jokes I've written when I was script editing him at Channel 4 that are very like him. So I think there's And what we've both got in common, even though he's not political in the way I am, and I'm not as enthralled as enslaved by sort of vaudeville, is there's a love of what you can do with jokes and the mechanics of it. And I mean, I on his podcast when he was doing bits I hadn't seen before, I was in heaven really, being able to sit there laughing at them. It was rather like I hosted a gig at the Royal Festival Hall, which is a tribute to Bert Jansch, the Pentangle guitarist, and I was sitting backstage waiting to do my bit, and Martin Simpson, who's a great folk guitarist, came and sat down next to me and was tuning up. And of course, in his tuning up, he'll play loads of little bits that he's improvised or whatever. And I thought, wow, I've paid like loads of money to see this guy in the past. And I'm sitting next to him, having this like one-to-one concert of things that will never be repeated. And I didn't say that to him because it would have seemed insane. But being on Harry's podcast, it was like having a one-to-one performance of the sort of things you'd go and see when he's on the tour in the big theatre. So it was brilliant. But yeah, I really love that about his and also how he managed to become popular with ordinary people through TV Burp. And then when those ordinary people come and see him, they're basically being exposed to the work of a man who is familiar with conceptual art and surrealism, and but also with the two Ronnies. And he manages to do what a lot of the musical comedians did. He basically inflicts a form of high art, surrealist art, on people who would not go and see it if they were told that's what it was.
Spot
You've
on.
got all these like ITV viewers watching him standing with no trousers on in a paddling pool full of water, singing some song while a giant cat attacks him or something. Brilliant. It's one of the great achievements. And I think where people spend a lot of time in music and comedy, nostalgically going on about how great the past was. But there are people that are with us now that are the all-time greats that you can still see. And he's one of them.
Well, we're also talking to one of them right now. Don't please
Oh, well,
know that.
thank you
I've,
very much.
I've got to say though, Stu, that pod with Harry, I think I mean, look, Tim and I obviously know that you two are very
Yeah.
close, but I think the friendship is the big takeaway. It shines through your closeness. You can tell you're such close pals. You can tell you've got those years of shorthand, if you like, and a lot of
Yeah.
the comments were things like, "God, I didn't know." One of them was said, I think maybe the most liked comment is something like, "I didn't know how much I needed this," or something like that. I think it's really beautiful.
You know what? Again, I think there was something about that episode that I mean, people may not realize it. They will when they look back. But as a society or a species, we are being traumatized now. Like every day,
Yeah.
we have to confront the fact in the news that a coterie of rich and powerful men who don't care about us, organize the sexual trafficking of women at the same time as organizing the funding of the far right in Europe, or ways to insert their friends into systems for taking our money off us by taking over all our public services or whatever. And so you know on some level, unless you're completely tone deaf, that that you're being tortured by all this, and we live in such massive uncertainty. Young people know something that we didn't grow up knowing, that they are doomed, that climate change and climate change and AI are going to absolutely destroy the way our societies work as we know it. That's going to happen in our lifetimes. And I think that, in the comedy sort of an insane, mad, inventive comedy like what Harry does, it takes away the pain for a bit, and it's a pain people perhaps don't know that they're going through. As does a night out in your clubs in the same way. So there is a kind of need for it. I also thought with Harry's thing, without wishing to sound nostalgic, it spoke of a slightly better time where there was some really weird, mad shows on television, and again, we didn't realise at the time what a privilege that was. And now everything's kind of retreated to, well, not retreat, move sideways to panel shows, which of course some of the people on them can bring huge inventiveness to them, like Sean Locke did. But the idea of it going into someone's crazy world for a fixed period of time, you don't quite get that in the same way anymore with with the sorts of shows that you used to have when we were growing up. So I think it was brilliant to see it again, and people really responded to that. It's interesting as well that I never thought it would happen, but YouTube does seem to be creating a platform to allow these things to happen. Of course, Twitter was doing it at one point, and lots of great comics that we know got a lot of traction through Twitter. But because Elon Musk has algorithmically driven all liberal content out of it to replace it with people saying that Muslims are taking over the world, which isn't as funny as some of the other things that are wrong. It's all those people have been sort of squeezed out, so that but you have to find a new platform.
Now, Stu, Tim, I feel like I'm taking your research away from you, Tim. Tim found that you're piloting a podcast. Speaking of
Yeah.
this sort of thing, please can you talk us through this? Because this is
Okay.
very
Well,
exciting.
when I was a kid, I liked this band called the Nightingales from Birmingham, and I actually realised in retrospect that I think the lyrics might have been quite a big influence on my comedy without me realising it. Uh, here's some lyrics by the Nightingales. Uh, uh, did you hear about the Irish man who opened a tandoori restaurant? Setup of a gag. He did quite well for himself. It's quite a lucrative line of business. What I mean, like it's sort of like anyway. So so I got to know Rob from the Nightingales by opening for them sometimes, and I made this film about them with Michael Cumming, who directed Brass Eye and Toast and whatever, called King Rocker. And Rob Lloyd, the singer, who's in his mid-60s now, is very much a sort of man that doesn't exist anymore, who spends all day in a pub alone, filling in, reading the racing papers, studying them, using a pen with four different colours to decide which horse is best, going and placing a bet, and invariably winning. Actually, he's one of those people. And because he sort of lives in pubs, he's got that, he knows all those kind of jokes, pub jokes, but he tells them really well. And in fact, the joke that I did in Harry's podcast was one he told me. But he's very resistant to. He doesn't like to analyze his work. He likes to just get on with it. And I thought it'd be funny to get him to tell these old jokes, which he tells really well, and then for me to drill down and ask him about the meaning and the context and the setup and where he imagines they are set socially and what they say about women or race from the time that they, written, or the tragedy of them, because he will not be interested in that at all, and it will create quite a good frisson. So that's what we're going to do at McCuntleth, try and do a podcast, which I think is called Joking Apart. Stewart Lee asks Robert Lloyd to explain old pub jokes. So we'll see what happens. But I don't want to add to the landfill of podcasts without having something really, good to say. I mean, yours is in a unique position because you run clubs, and so when you talk to the comedians about your business, it's got something going on, But there's a lot of just people talking. Although that said, I don't really listen to enough to know what I'm talking about, so I should probably shut up. But yeah, I am doing that podcast, and I also, Sally, who does press for me and promotion. I mean, the tours are still selling, but a little bit slower than usual. And I think we may have got to the point where, traditional newspapers are going down. The rhythms of the internet are often, gamed by big business. That there are these sort of fake ticket sites that are in between you and your fans and the box office. There'll be some things saying sign up for alerts, and it's just there to harvest data. So we probably do need to have more of an internet presence to be able to get to people now.
Well, I
But
mean,
that's my plan. We'll see what happens. We'll do two and see what happens.
so what if it feels right, if the chemistry, the vibe,
Yeah,
etc., and if you feel it's got legs,
yeah.
then why
Might
not?
not do. I mean, to be honest, he was going to McCuntleth anyway to do a talk about the film, and I was doing the Werewolf show there, so I thought, oh, let's try and put this in. Also, I think McCuntleth might give a disproportionate feel of how successful that show could be, because if there's a festival in Britain where there are 1,000 comedy nerds disproportionately interested in the mechanics of jokes, it's going to be McCann, isn't it? So we'll see. It's called Joking Apart, anyway.
It's a great title.
Yeah, well, that's from one of his songs, Joking Apart, Joking Apart. I like a joke like the next man. That's not to say the next man is a joke. But he's got loads of little things. In fact, I put it to him that his lyrics when I was a teenager may have unlocked some sort of way that I thought about jokes. And he went, "Well, you've made considerably more money out of that than I have."
Mate, I'm going to say this is. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to say it. Right, my wife's got this sauna blanket,
Oh yeah,
and the idea is that you sweat it all out, and what it does to what it's done to her skin is incredible. That wolf costume is your very own sauna blanket. Your
it
skin,
is. Yeah.
it's unbelievable, isn't it? What it's
No,
done.
so well, like, but I mean, that's my recommendation now for health is to wear an extremely hot werewolf costume and run round in it for an hour singing and stuff. But it's not going to work for everyone. But
It's good.
Look, comedians will be messaging me going, "I can't believe you said to Stu that his wolf costume is like a sauna blanket." But you please back me up on this. What it's done to your skin is off the charts, isn't
it
it?
is. It's really. I mean, it's to be honest. When I first did it, and I was a lot heavier, I thought it was going to kill me. I felt, but I also had pneumonia. Actually, I didn't know at the time when I was first wearing it.
God.
And but now I put it on at half time. This sounds like an actor talking or something. I put it on at half time and I go, thank God for that. I'm done now. This other bloke's taking over, and I feel like what I feel it's really easy from half time because once you're in that suit, you sort of feel like you can do anything and it's not really me. So it doesn't matter what happens. And you can sort of see some comedians doing this where they have the armor of a persona. And we just mentioned Sean Locke, and I think that he was very like that. He had this armor-plated persona. Then other people have a literal costume, like Roy Chubby Brown. You know, on some level, it sounds really patronising. Actually, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. When he dresses up in that medieval kind of full motley of a patchwork cloak and the flying helmet and whatever, he obviously understands on some level that he can't just come out and say all those awful things. He has to sort of be in some kind of persona that allows it. I don't mean loads of the act doesn't make sense, but that part of it to me does. That he thinks he's got to become this thing, and so yeah. When I put the werewolf costume on, I really feel happy and like he's taking over and helping me out. And I'll really, really. This sounds stupid. I'll really miss him when he has to be put in a box in a year's time. I don't resent him because I remember when we were on Harry Hill, we had Keith Harris on, who absolutely hated Orville. I remember being in the green room with him, and he
Mm.
was really resented the duck. He sort of resented being chained to it almost, and he viewed it as a person that he disliked. So it's a bit like that brilliant episode of Inside Number Nine about the double act, except the
Yes.
thing he hated was his own hand.
Oh, that's heartbreaking, isn't it? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
The Roy Chubby Brown thing. I'd always thought that it's a persona, and then didn't I think Channel 4 followed him around, didn't they? And he
Yeah.
off stage he
yeah.
said some awful stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, I know. I knew someone that was in his band, and she said it wasn't a persona, and it was quite hard work to be around with him. Although I was talking to someone recently who had tour managed him and quite liked him, and told me that he had when he's working out a tour, he has a room, and the walls are covered in post-it notes, and the 150 racist and misogynist jokes that he does are moved around until they come into an optimum position, which I thought was really interesting that he has a process. I mean, I don't know if he writes those jokes or whatever, but the idea that he's constructing an act that has a shape, I thought was interesting and sort of probably not what you'd expect, and also shows a degree of sophistication absent from a lot of people in our world who are assembling just loads of bits that they went viral that were 30 seconds. And so it's got interesting. I would quite like to it'd be interesting to see how that works. I don't know if I could sit through it though, because like it's just like what's interesting when you're a liberal satirist, if you're writing for the BBC or the Observer or the Nerve, as I am now, which is great, by the way, if anyone subscribed to that, it's your stuff gets checked over, and the rule normally is that the setup of a joke about a person or whatever has to be factually accurate, and then the the punchline can be an exaggeration. But Chubby's jokes about race, the setup tends to be based on a false piece of information about statistics about migration or whatever, and then the punchline is an exaggeration of a thing that's already not true. So it will be interesting to see if he could do that act if he were held to the same standards that liberals on the left are. But
Yeah,
that's true generally of politics, isn't it, as well? I mean, like Keir Starmer, Keir Starmer's future is in danger because he is two people removed from Epstein via Peter Mandelson, and we expect liberals on the left to have standards, whereas Farage's partner, Steve Bannon, had meetings with Epstein about how to fund a pan-European far-right movement. And yet nothing ever seems to stick to Farage because he's not expected to have standards. So he's mislaid hundreds of thousands of pounds by not declaring work or whatever, or having offshore companies, whereas Angela Rayner's being held to account for what is clearly an accounting error by a poor quality high street, mortgage
yeah.
broker. So it's sort of it's we are more is expected of us. Let's say that.
You said earlier about how we're doomed. Is there? I am a naive optimist. Do you think is there any way out? Do you think there's any what would need to happen for things to improve?
I don't know. I mean, let's start on a micro level with comedy, right? So, if reform get in 2029, Farage has seen what Trump's been able to do in America. In the space of a year, Trump has run the Kennedy Center into the ground. He has suspended entertainment operations, which is a really funny business-like way of saying there's no one's playing there anymore, right? It's entertainment operations. Were you aware that you stage your entertainment operations in your clubs? You don't have shows, you have entertainment operations. And it's taken him a year to crash that. So Farage can do that in a year to all the places like the Sage in Newcastle or the Royal Festival Hall. He can finish all those platforms for liberal thought and liberal art and culture that inspire people. He can shut those down like Trump's done. Trump's got cartoonists off the Washington Post, got them sacked. He's tried to get comedians off telly. That can happen. There's already reform councils in Nottingham, and County and Durham. There are theatres there that receive bits of local funding, not that's paid to the acts, but for the infrastructure of the theatre. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that a reform council would say, "Oh, there seems to be rather a lot of LGBTQ programming on," So I think they can collapse live art pretty quickly. They can do the same to newspapers and broadcasting. They can the BBC are already absolutely toothless about the people that they platform and don't question. They had that Constantine bloke from trigonometry on Question Time the other week. Have him on Question Time, but the thing you have to do at the top is explain that his platforms were funded by Paul Marshall, who funds the GB News and Unheard, and has been called out uh, for circulating Islamophobic content. You have to say these people are, and they don't. So I think it seems unstoppable that. Plus, I mean, all the gaming of algorithms skewing everything to the far right on social media is unstoppable unless people legislate against it, which the Spanish are. So there's that. Trump's dismantling climate change agreements worldwide. That everyone will start to do that. And then the worst thing is AI, right? So within 4 years, 50% of the workforce could be out of work, right, because of AI. People know that. They're not preparing for it. What that means to us as comedians is our audience have no money to go
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
The trickle down effect just to understand it through the lens of comedy. That's what the damage that the next few years could do to what we do. Imagine what it would do to things even more important than people telling jokes above pubs. It could be horrendous. So, yeah, it was bad times ahead. But there's some clever people out there fighting it. Carol Codwallader at the Nerve is completely all over this stuff. She's been on top of Palantir for ages, who are the American tech company run by Peter Thiel, who, when asked about the future of humanity, didn't seem that bothered whether we survived or not. They've taken over our NHS data and defence data, and finally, people are asking questions in Parliament about that. He was very close to Epstein as well. So it's and was very pleased, both of them, when Brexit went through, because it meant that markets were deregulated so they could make more money. So all these sorts of things, we've got to get on top of it. And people can't just sleepwalk through life looking at funny memes of cats falling off roofs on Instagram. They've got to realize where this is all coming from. A really good thing to do now would be to stop using Amazon, because Bezos gave 75 million to Trump, and it's taken over the Washington Post and sacked all the news coverage. You've got to understand that these people that are selling us cheap CDs don't have our best interests at heart. Came out like a real rant, didn't it? But
That was great.
yeah. So and there's fun ways of doing this. I'm not saying every act has to be really political, but people have to know who they're dealing with. Can I ask you some questions quickly? How have you started running the banana yet?
Oh,
So Fridays and Saturdays start Friday the 4th of September,
Right.
and then they want some summer shows when there aren't World Cup matches.
I'm so glad that has survived. That was the first place I ever got a paid gig, at the Banana, in the second week of September 1989. And the bill was me, Sean Mio, Alistair McGowan, and David Baddiel, which is really funny when you look back on that, innit? I mean, who'd put that bill on now? Four white blokes, all the same. But yeah, it was amazing. And Dave, who ran it then, was very, very encouraging and helpful to me. Um, and and it was really like being thrown in at the deep end, having to do that big room at the Bedford. I did my open spot the week before at Acton Banana, and he said, we'll give you a gig next week. Someone's dropped out, which was amazing. But yeah, I mean, I really loved it, and that was one of those places as well that reminds me of the times where nobody on the circuit was playing stadiums, nobody was in a far right group, and everybody just muddled along, and it was nice. And there wasn't enough money involved for there to be any tension, and the politics hadn't become extreme. I remember, it was always a pleasure doing two shows there and hanging out with all the people. Great. So I'm glad it's still survived. Yeah.
Well, Stu, you can expect the emails politely asking you to head down whenever you like. So
I'd love to do it when I'm working out the next show. Great.
brilliant.
that's great to hear. Thanks very
Probably
much.
could get some Morris dancers in the ground floor there as well.
100%.
Could,
Yeah.
you absolutely could.
Just make sure that I'm not ordering the small bells from Amazon.
No, not yet. You don't have to do it.
No, I'm only joking. I'm just saying, of all the websites to buy the small bells from, it won't be from Amazon.
No, not from Amazon. Yeah,
Not
yeah.
from Amazon. Sorry,
Okay.
Simon.
Let's format, as they say. So, Stuart, I'll be very intrigued. Who are your favourite acts to see in a green room?
Well, because I'm very, very bad at making time to meet people, and so I do really look forward. And for the first, 20 years I was doing this, 15 years I was doing this. Yeah, I had an off the peg social life every night where you'd do a circuit gig and you'd meet people that you really liked, and so but to run into in a green room, which would normally be at benefits now, it's always great to see Harry Hill and Kevin Eldon and Simon Munnery, right, who are great natural wits and have been friends of mine for years and years. But then you meet new people as well. I came back on a train from Margate with Michelle Desfart, who I first met at your
Oh,
place.
mate.
What a fascinating person, what a rich life she's had, and what an interesting Zen sort of place she's in now when she looks back at all the things she's been through and what's happened to her. A naturally very funny storyteller, often about things which, were she to say them in public, would cause quite some ripples. I think we were on the plane and she was talking about the sorts of people on the plane. We're on the train. We're on the plane coming back from Saudi Arabia comedy festival. We're on the train, and she was talking about her experiences with, as being a model in '90s New York, noughties New York, and I said we're going to have to move, to an empty carriage because you can't be saying this if people overhear it. That's really interesting. But it was a great thing. Although when I was doing comedy vehicle, I kind of I was very wary about I felt I didn't want to be subsumed into the world of entertainment because I felt it would compromise you. Like if you I didn't feel you'd be able to do jokes about celebrities if you were friends with them. Like journalists shouldn't be friends with politicians, and yet we're in a situation now where loads of them all went to the same private school and we're in the same class. So it's kind of
Absolutely.
it's it, and so I think I overplayed my hand of attacking like entertainment somewhat during that period to the point where I remember finding myself in the late noughties at the Galway Comedy Festival, and there being a sort of members bar for all the performers. And there were so many people in there that I'd done horrible routines about. I thought I can't even go in there. I had to go off to a pub on my own. Great, it was a great folk band on, so it was all right. But yeah, was always a great thing. I don't really like people that are trying to perform, but there's something about that backstage space that's really convivial. And of course, people have tried to recreate something with those like cable TV shows that are called The Green Room, where they take that space and then surround it with loads of members of the public and ruin it. But yeah. So those people.
I always think you're great. I think you always go above and beyond. Always be comedy in that corridor. I think you're fantastic the way you. It sounds very patronising this, but you're really great at chatting with the newer acts and so on. I think it really stands out to me.
Well, I'm trying to make them think I'm like a good bloke, future, so that I get some good obituaries. Exactly. What happens is there's a perception of me which is based on the act, right? Of being a complete arsehole mental case, right? And then when people meet you, I'm aware that they sort of go, "Oh, he was all right." I thought he was going to like attack me with a spade or something. So it's
But
sort of
it's a really friendly bloke. Very good.
Okay, next one. Well, this you know what? Very good link from James actually. Who is the best new act you've seen recently?
well, I don't see anything like the amount of new acts that I should.
Mm.
Because I'm not on the circuit anymore. And also, I'll think someone's a new act, and then I'll find out they've done like 3 HBO specials or something. I've never. But I really liked Hugh Davis, although you'll tell me that he's been going 20 years now and is 58 years old or something.
No, he's great, huge.
But
Yeah.
he's great, yeah. But a person I never ever heard of. I was on one of Robin Ince's crazy Christmas shows recently with Chelsea Birkby, and have you seen her?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's really great, but she didn't know who I was, which is great because it's nice that there's generations of people that for whom you're irrelevant. And then I looked her up and saw that she'd done 2 or 3 hour long specials that had been filmed, and so she seemed to have a really interesting persona and quite a different way of doing things. So but what I miss is I haven't done the Fringe for a couple of years because the economics and the timings haven't worked out. But when I'm in Edinburgh, I'll go to like 3 or 4 shows a day, and I normally come out of that thinking that I've got some idea what's going on. But at the moment, I'll hold my hand up and I'll say I don't have any idea what's going on. There might have been a huge new revolution in thought about how stand up is done, and I wouldn't be aware. So, you tell me. I go down your place and see people.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I think Chelsea and Huge. I think they both qualify for that question. I think they're
yeah,
good ones.
great.
And then on a similar note, who is your favorite comedian who doesn't do it anymore?
Well, 100% without a doubt, Kevin McAleer. 100%. And it actually saddens me to think that I won't be able to see him live again because there are moments of seeing him that have been so funny that I've lost my mind and fallen off a chair laughing and lost all sense of time and space. And he's best known to the average person as the Mad Uncle in Derry Girls, where the writer was able to take a lot of the good things about Kevin's act and package them for this character, but to be subjected to him to his boring, self-indulgent stuff for an hour, it becomes like it's a sort of the way he holds the truth of the character for that time and doesn't show any sign of enjoying it or a crack. There's no crack in the armor. It was brilliant. And when he was announced his final tour of Ireland, I said, "Can't you just come and do it here? I'll open for you. Can we work something out?" And he's not an ambitious man in that way. He doesn't have ego, and he wouldn't come. But I feel sad about the fact that I won't see him again, as in the way that I did about when some of my fate when Marquis Smith died, and I knew he wouldn't see the Fall again, and I saw 54 times. I thought it felt like losing a limb, and the thought of not being able to see Kevin McAleer again is really, really sad. Maybe he'll change his mind. I don't know. He's absolutely loved in Ireland and in Northern Ireland, so maybe something will happen. But yeah, Kevin McAleer.
Amazing.
Fantastic. Okay. What's a joke or a bit that you've retired that you secretly miss?
Well, I don't really miss anything because by the time I have finished a show, I've normally run everything into the ground, and also I've normally changed my feelings about the world or myself or whatever. My dread really is being asked to go back and do old things because I often find it quite difficult to remember what state of mind I was in when I wrote them, or increasingly how I learned them, even. Like there are things that I used to write that are like crazy 20-minute long tongue twisters where if you get one bit of information wrong, the whole back end of it collapses. And whereas now people go to me, "Oh, your shows are becoming much looser and more improvisational." And I go, "Yeah, yeah, I've done that on purpose." But actually, I couldn't fucking remember how to do like the sort of things I used to write. Like, I thought it must have been mad. A mad person must have done them. It was like, so I don't. I'm not that bothered. In fact, I really like the feeling of shrugging stuff off and it going. And often people come up to me and say, "Oh, I really like this bit or whatever," and I struggle to remember even what it was. I think there's only a certain amount of headspace. There was a suggestion recently that if I re-recorded all my old best material, I could own it somehow and put it out somewhere. But the thought of trying to do it, I mean, the stuff I did like 35 years ago, it was over the time, some of it, where it wasn't as bad as some stuff some people did, but there was a kind of feeling, I think, that the political correctness battle was won. We were living in a liberal utopia. We certainly were in central London. And I don't know about the rest of the country, but so you felt like you could play fast and loose a little bit with assumptions about whether you meant what you were saying ironically or not. And to go back to that stuff now, when people in government or people that own football clubs or people that run tech companies are saying things that are worse than things Jerry Sadowitz would have said as a joke 35 years ago. It's quite hard to imagine doing that stuff. So I think a classic song lives forever, and classic comedy routines do, and it's always great to see, like if you could go and see Rod Gilbert talking about his wonky suitcase again, you'd do that, But I kind of think mine, leave it, move on, forget about it.
What I might say is sacrilege, but I'm going to say it anyway. Jack D has used Instagram, and he's got someone to go through the back catalogue and share clips. So,
Yeah.
his great plane crash Terry routine from 30 years ago. Is there a universe where you employ someone to revisit the back catalogue and put stuff out with a view to tour tickets
Will
and
be.
so
I
on.
mean, I've got to do something. I've got to do something because people look. I'm really comfortable with the amount of people that come. It's fine. I make a living. I've got a nice kitchen, but I'm at Ali Pali for 2 weeks. I went in the record shop at the bottom of the hill in Ali Pali, and the bloke went, "Oh, I can't believe you come in. I'm your biggest fan." I went, "You coming to the show?" And he went, "What?" And I said, "I'm on up there, like 400 yards away for 2 weeks," and he didn't know. Same thing happened last night in Hornsey Rise near Ali Pali. An Asian guy, an actor, came up to me, vaguely recognised, and said, "Oh, I love your stuff. I live just here." I said, "You coming to the show?" He goes, "No, it's up there for 2 weeks." People like people go, "Oh, I love your stuff, mate. Do you ever play live? I can never get a ticket." And I went, "I do about 200 shows a year, and I always put more shows on, so tickets are always available." Oh, so obviously something's not getting through, and so I probably need to have some kind of presence. I don't advertise and I don't go on things. When Ali Pali wasn't quite selling out, I did 2 weeks of podcasts, and that did seem to make a difference. So yeah, I probably will do something like that. But what I don't want to end up doing is being there in real time because I know what I'm like, right? And if I get in after a gig at 1 o'clock in the morning and I've had 2 pints, and one of these trolls is on there trying to bait you into losing your shit so that they can get you cancelled, I'm exactly the sort of person who would fall for that, right? It's like giving me the internet. It's like giving me a loaded gun, and I couldn't trust myself with it. So there needs to be a firewall where someone else is the person that is
You
dealing with it, really.
you 100% need someone external
Yeah.
putting up
Yeah,
clips from across the past, few decades, 30 years, what have you.
yeah,
And I'm saying this as your friend,
yeah,
you are not allowed to know the fucking password.
yeah, yeah. I know. Well, at the moment, I mean, the public, God bless them, sort of do it for me. Although
Yeah, they
what's
do. They do.
Yeah.
what's been pointed out to me is that there are clips of mine that have got millions of hits on social media that I see no revenue from in any way. And if you can get your own channel, apparently, I don't really understand how it works, but I'll do something probably for the next one. Yeah,
I think it's really worked for Jack D and others.
yeah, yeah,
And it's not like he's not sat there sharing stuff. And I don't and also, and I'm putting words in your mouth here. You're never going to be the guy that's going to be like, "Oh, here I am enjoying a burrito," when it invades your private life or anything like that.
yeah. I mean, what I, I saw an article in the New York Times by a young American comedian, and she was saying she got to the stage where she couldn't write material because she was spending all her time developing content to fill up little.
Yeah.
And I've talked to young British comics who feel the same. I think it's tyrannical what's happened. I also noticed I hadn't played a lot of the AEG type theatres for various reasons, but I did quite a few on this tour. I managed to get a deal sorted out that worked for the public, and the house managers at a number of them spoke to me afterwards and noted that I did a finished show that had a through line and ran for 2 hours. They said we keep getting people that are massive and their shows are stitched together from little bits because that's what they develop. And and it was interesting. I felt very flattered that they'd noticed there was a difference. So I think if you end up just trying to develop little bits of content to hold people's attention, you kind of miss the bigger picture of the thing you're driving towards. But what do I know? I'm nearly 60, and as you say, I haven't worked out how to do it. I'll get my kids to do it, would be the answer probably.
Yeah, perfect.
Uh, is is there a Piers joke or bit that you wish you had written?
Well, um, when I was young and starting out, I loved these kind of little two-liner jokes that within them created a whole alternate universe as good as a massive long routine. And probably the ultimate one of that. And I can still remember the first place I saw it. It was at a pub in South London, just sat in Brixton somewhere. Well, Michael Redmond. A lot of people say to me, "Get out of my garden." Um, And he would, but what's missing is the context, which is that he comes on, he's got a drooping moustache, a raincoat. He looks like a person that it would be strange if they were in your garden. And I think that joke was superb. As did Joe Pasquale, who of course copied it at the Royal Variety Performance in 1995 without attributing it. But it's a brilliant joke. And then that really, but it also only works for that person. It didn't work for Joe Pasquale because Joe Pasquale doesn't look like someone that you would be confused by them being in your garden. You know, it's kind of plagiarized but not understood, which is what Gervais has done to me, really. But it's sort of it's kind of like, but it's great. I think probably that one was like a bomb exploding in your mind of what you could do with two lines. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I think the routine you ended up doing about Joe Pasquale taking it, I think that put me onto Michael Redmond, and I think
Oh, really?
you doing that routine probably did do a lot for Michael's like stand-up
Oh,
career and
well, it's kind of to
presence.
say. I mean, he was, I mean, he was in Father Ted around that time as
Yeah,
well. Very, very funny in that.
absolutely.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of guys like that from that time in Ireland, like him and Kevin McAleer that had, I mean, they were doing sort of Beckett surrealism as stand-up, really.
yeah.
Great, really good.
Okay, what is the strangest way you've made money to supplement comedy?
Look, I was really lucky, I mean, I came to London to specifically try to do the circuit in 1989. I did a temp job for 3 or 4 months at an office on Hanger Lane in the North Circular. And that office, weirdly, when it was derelict, was later used for the first series of The Thick of It. But I sat in this office all day at a massive old computer screen like they used to be in the 80s. People would come in with bags of shopping, and I would take the shopping out, enter the barcode numbers onto a database with a description of the product, and then they would go. And the man in the room who ran this project was not allowed to explain to us what it was for or who he was gathering the information for. And I did that for about 4 months, and I left with no understanding of what I had been doing or what it was for. It's really weird. Then after that, I got the only other job I've had for a long time, where I did fact checking for an encyclopedia, a multi-part encyclopedia of gardening. And I spent all day for 18 months in libraries at Kew Gardens, the Royal Horticultural Society, and the Natural History Museum. It's a job today that wouldn't exist because you could do all the fact checking online. And if you were, and even if it did exist, you wouldn't get paid for it because it would be an unpaid internship that would go to a middle class child. So I did that, and it was brilliant. On Friday afternoons, I had to go and hand my work in to a man called Anthony Huxley, who was the nephew of Aldous Huxley and the son of Julian Huxley, who ran London Zoo. In the old days of the world of work, work stopped on Friday lunchtime and everyone went to the pub, and Friday afternoon was a write-off. And he used to bring in photos of himself having his nappy changed by G.H. Lawrence and stuff like that, which was brilliant. But I didn't really speak to anyone all week because I was in libraries. And then at the end, when I quit, because I had enough circuit gigs to quit, I went up to the librarian at Kew Gardens and I said to her, I'm handing my card back in. I'm not coming here anymore. And she said, why? And I said, I'm going to become a comedian full time. And I'd never spoken to her in 18 months. And she said, oh, you never seemed very funny. And I don't know what I was supposed to have done in the library.
Smell my flower.
Anyway, so I've been really lucky. I mean, I got a booking a week after my first open spot. I won Hackney Empire New Act of the Year in February 1990, which helped with some bookings, although a lot of the things I was supposed to get off it never materialised. And then I kind of I was pretty soon I was doing the circuit 4 nights a week at least, and back then, your rent was 50 quid and you got paid in cash. And like honestly, that period, 1989 to 95, before I started doing the telly, was the happiest I've been up until now, actually, where the endorphin inducing effects of dressing as a werewolf every night has made me as happy as I was I was 21 years old. So, but yeah, that period was, and so I didn't. I mean, it was tight. I didn't have like any savings or parental support or anything, but it was doable in the way that big cities were doable then. It's much harder for people today. People come up to me after the show and say, I want to be a comedian or I've just started out. Have you got any advice? And I've got these two books I wrote, How I Escaped My Certain Fate and the next one, I forget the title of it. And they're relevant in that they're about how I wrote material, but everything else about them is irrelevant because it describes an economic and social situation and a media landscape that no longer exists. So none of the advice in it is remotely relevant. And in fact, if people read them and tried to copy them, they would have a worse life than they would if they ignored them. So it's pointless.
To this day, if you were to speculate, what do you think that job was where you're inputting the data from the items from shopping?
Well, I don't know. I wonder whether it was an attempt to build a database of the barcode numbers of every product in the UK and then sell that database to people without going through without dealing with the supermarkets, so that you could sell them back their own information. Maybe I don't know. It was really great. There was six of us, and we sat around a table doing this, and we weren't really supposed to talk. There was a woman whose ex-husband, had managed Journey, the progressive rock band. It was quite interesting to talk to. There was a lovely middle-aged Polish woman who was really nice. There was an old Cockney lady who was like an EastEnders character. And when I quit, she bought me a wallet and a belt because she said that my trousers were always falling down and my wallet was scruffy. And she got them from a department store in Kingston upon Thames, I remember, Benthal's, and they were in the Benthal's bag. Then there was a young guy called Onkar who described himself as a techno-pagan, and he liked to talk a lot about his theories about society. And I saw a really amazing office thing happen about the end of the third week. The bloke who never spoke to us, who lived in Beaconsfield and commuted in every day, came over up Friday at 4 o'clock, put his hand on his shoulder and said, I won't be needing you anymore. And went. And we went, wow, that's amazing. That's how you get let go in the world of temping. Brilliant. But yeah, funny. I used to walk down to the Park Royal, garage and get a sandwich every day at lunchtime. Park Royal was such a bleak place. That Hanger Lane gyratory roundabout. The office was near there. But yeah, I still don't know what it was to this day. I have no idea what I was doing. No idea.
Well, we've got one final question, and that is the best advice. It could be from another comedian, or it could be something you've learned along the way that you'd like to share.
Well, when I was first in London, I used to go, and I still do, go to loads of experimental jazz gigs, and I got to know some of the people from that world. And they had a thing that they passed around, which was a photocopy of wise sayings said by Thelonious Monk that the saxophonist Steve Lacy wrote down when he was touring with him. And they were statements about performance and the business and whatever. And I was given a copy of this in the late 90s by the saxophonist Evan Parker. I have it on my fridge to this day. But it's not the big deal it used to be, because if you want to see Steve Lacy's list of wise things Thelonious Monk said, you can just get it. Someone scanned it into the internet now, but it used to feel like a real privilege being given. But there's so many good things on here. Like, what happens in the room is the show. How about that?
Yeah.
I love that. I think that means that you sometimes have to go with what's happening instead of trying to onto what you've got. Try and get back to what you've got. But yeah, what happens in the room is the show. And we all know that, sadly, however much work we might put into writing something or whatever, sometimes what happens in the room is the show. And a show is created that only ever once happened, and it was in that room, and you can't get it back again. So you have to go with what happens in the room is the show. So thanks to the 1950s modal jazz community for that advice.
Isn't that spot on though?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not all relevant. For example, they're not all. A genius is the one most like himself. That means
These are great.
don't try to be the other people.
Yeah.
Try to be what you are. Whatever you think can't be done, somebody will come along and do it. Um,
And so the listener can
Always
just,
leave them wanting more. Well, we know that. Always leave them wanting more. It's fucking Bruce Forsyth stuff, that is. Yeah.
brilliant.
That.
Well, look, Stu, thank you so much. Be sure to visit Stu's website to get tickets. But well done with everything, Stu. I mean,
Thanks for having me. And I look
just
forward to coming back when I'm working out the next one at your now empire of clubs. Reading
well,
across South London.
you'll hear me and Tim coming up the stairs. 'Cause we'll have bells on, so don't you worry about that.
Brilliant. Great.
Little
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so
Stu,
much,
thanks.
Stuart.
Really great to see you, and thanks. You're really
And
great.
I'm touring that Hot Wolf show until December, basically. So I'm off.
Fantastic. Have any
And,
plans to
and,
film
I've,
it?
and I've got a funny column every week in The Nerve, which is a new online newspaper set up by all the people that were too left wing and got sacked at The Observer. And yeah, I'm filming the show in October in Coventry, hopefully. And so it will be somewhere in a visual form at some point. Yeah, great.
Brilliant.
Absolutely outstanding. Thanks a lot, Stu.
Thanks a lot.
Tim, wowee. I think that's an immediate Hall of Fame episode.
Yeah, I thought it was it was so fun to do. And look, we can say it. We recorded this. This intro is being recorded minutes after finishing the episode. We really had a great time. We're basking in the warmth of the recent record.
Really are, and that means a lot because I've not put the heating on at the Gill House, so I need all the warmth I can get. Now, Tim, what did we learn from that episode? This is the new question for the Always Be Comedy Rebooked. What did we learn from Stu from that episode? I've got one.
There's a lot of things. There are so many things. Let's hear your one.
Well, all right. There was the exclusive about the Morris dancing, which is an absolute scorchio take.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there was all sorts of things. My big takeaway, and my wife will thank me for this. I bought my wife a sauna blanket for Christmas, 2 Christmases ago, maybe 2 birthdays ago. Anyway, what this thing does, you sweat out all the toxins, I guess, and what it can do for your skin is extraordinary. I've not tried it myself, but Stu was positively glowing.
He's never looked better. He looked fantastic. Yeah.
He's never looked better. So, if the next time we see you, dear listener, you're dressed as a giant wolf, we will know why. It's because you've got on board this Stu Wellness bandwagon.
Absolutely.
So that's what I learned. I learned that I need to give this sauna blanket a go.
Yeah, get on it straight away. Yeah.
How about you, Timo?
I just found it really interesting him talking about wanting to have more of an online presence now. I think I just always find it fascinating, like how comedians who have been around for years and years still have to constantly adapt to the ever-changing world. I think it's really interesting, and I look forward to seeing how he does that, whether that's clipping up lots of things, or it could be this new podcast with the Nightingale's lead singer.
Well, this really does go without saying, but as with Jack D and all the other comedians, Harry Hill also does it, doesn't he? Who've gone in the back catalogue and either they're doing it themselves, or I'm pretty sure. I know for a fact Jack isn't doing it himself. Obviously, Harry, I'm not so sure, but I think Stu's just got. Tim, the guy's obviously spoiled for choice, isn't he?
Well, I was thinking about just how many hours of recorded stand-up he has, and then I was thinking, well, he's got like 3 series of Comedy Vehicle alone, which is so many hours of stuff, and then you've also got so many different DVDs.
But also, even like if he was, if he was that way inclined, Fist of Fun would clip up beautifully.
Yes. Oh my God. It would. Absolutely.
This morning with Richard Not Judy, I still send mates clips.
Yeah.
Mate, some of the stuff from this morning with Richard Not Judy, for example, Lazy Comedy Slobs.
Always think about it. Always think about it.
Mate,
It's
You can to
really
this day, there's times where I'm close to saying something on stage, and you can hear the lazy comedy. Oh no, I can't do that. How many, mate? It's not really for me to wag a finger, but for example, when they do the bit about, and that was just the teachers, or I was 27 years old. You do still see it.
absolutely.
I do think our comedy savvy audience, when you do see it, I have seen them essentially hold their nerve as if to say, no.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but look, these things are sort of cliches almost because so many people do use them and they do work. I sort of, I understand in a first draft someone going for it, but I always think about those sketches. I think they're just so funny.
If you heard that was my wife. Did you? You know what?
I didn't hear it.
That is a snapshot into my life. My wife very kindly messaging, would I like some food? The answer is, I really would. Right, well, Tim, I'm going to go have some food. You may or may not have heard that.
I didn't, that's the thing.
I was on a warm-up last night, and I pulled out a little sandwich bag with some snacks in it in the middle of the record.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a couple of satsumas and a couple of oat bars and what have you. And one of the crew members went, that is so sweet. And I went, thank you very much. And he went, do you make that or your wife? And I went, my wife. And he said, I would love someone like that.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Isn't
also,
that nice?
Soft, not crunchy foods. It's well chosen for warm-up.
Tim, you're absolutely... Oh, my God. I'm going to go down and lavish her with praise. On this podcast and on stage, I've obviously, I'll have a joke. It's quite nice to say something nice about my significant other. Timo, any other business?
No other business. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, Stewart. Look, a hugely important figure, and couldn't be happier to have him back for a second appearance on the podcast. Brilliant.
Beloved by comedians and audience members alike. The man is he is one of the greatest stand-ups in the history of the universe. It's that was lovely when he's giving praise to Harry Hill. It was also important to point out that he too is worthy of the same praise.
Oh my God, of course.
We love him enormously, and we can't wait to see him again. It was really great to see him again, Tim.
It was. I hadn't seen him for. It was a gig with Sean and Michelle de Swart, I remember. It was sometime last year, and that was such a lovely night.
Fantastic. Thank you as always, guys. That was a real blast. Thank you to you, Tim, for everything as always. Big shout to Adam Benjamin, helping to showrun the... Not helping to, quite literally, show-running our Chelsea night, doing God's work as well. So thank you very much. We're always very grateful, and we'll see you at a show soon. And that is exciting about the Bedford. So, watch this space. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.